I'll just step back a second. I just sent over a grant proposal to, I don't know if anybody knows Kate Brown, she works for the school district, to look into a grant for that pedestrian bridge if we get to that point.
Cool.
I had an individual send me information that Waukesha just did once, so I'm gonna go take a look at it. They got 78% of their project covered.
Cool.
Wow.
Very cool.
So not saying that that's the number that we may hit on. This year's window is already closed. I took a quick look at the grant. I'm not a grant writer in any regard. Kate is willing to write that for us, and then apply for it right after the first of the year when the next opening cycle opens. So I quickly, like I said, looked at it. We're considered rural, obviously, in this grant. They do award up to $1 million. So just throwing that out there, that randomly came from some resident to me, and I was kind of like, this is interesting, and looked into it. So Kate's gonna look into that.
Have we got any ballpark pricing on this?
It's gonna be about $1 million. It's a bridge.
Fix a lot of roads for $1 million.
What's that?
Can fix a lot of roads for $1 million.
You can. There's a quality of life component and a connectivity component in particular for low-speed vehicles.
But it's gotta be wide enough. The drawings I've seen, 8 feet's not gonna cut it.
Yeah. Bikes.
You're gonna run over. I mean, people wanna use their golf carts.
I didn't mean to start anything. I
No,
said,
that's okay.
no, let the process play out.
Right.
These are all valid points. $1 million is a lot of money. Maybe there will be some grant money that can help
Right.
people feel more
Also-
comfortable, and maybe not. I don't know. And
It's encouraging.
We had
It
planned
is.
on going after Knowles Nelson at the staff level. So there's a whole funding consideration what you have to be able to submit for that and actually come close to it. It's $250,000 for that one. Is plans that are done. Like, you don't submit it at the contemplative stage. You submit it at the hey, here's the fully done. And that's how we got the last round of funding for $167K. Is here's the engineering general assembly. We would appreciate $250,000. So East Main Street, and talking about East Main Street specifically, the roadway is what's incorporated into the TID budget here. We talked about burying power lines. The estimate for that's $3 million. We talked about decorative lighting to go down the street. You're going to have some lighting cost. It's not a no cost thing. That was roughly $950,000 to do the same fluted poles that we did through the rest of Main Street, and there was also contemplation on what comes down that roadway in the future. Does it remain exactly what it is? Does it evolve into something else over the next 80 years? 80 years is a really long time. Finance committee was pretty clear on their feelings about this, and that was, no, we're not going to do line burial. No, we're not going to do decorative lighting. We're just going to stick to street surface, curb gutter, and sidewalks. There's trade-offs no matter what options you pick. We have reached out, in the same conversation with the finance committee, we reached out to essentially every landowner in and around the village, and what we don't have is a willing seller who's saying, hey, please take my land on, develop it, and add it on to the village. I'm not saying that tomorrow something can't change and somebody won't come to the table. That sort of thing happens all the time. But this last round of outreach, we had nobody saying, yeah, I'm ready to move on and relinquish my property in consideration of X amount of dollars. So that means internal development and redevelopment is really what you're going to have available. If we do not have new development going on, our system is designed in such a way that you all will be faced with really rotten trade-off choices. And what has kept our community from having to make really rotten trade-off choices over the last 8 years under mine and Adam's leadership is the fact that you've got net new construction going on. Things are being built. Fred, your neighborhood is now built out. There's no low-hanging fruit there. The Fox Run neighborhood is now built out. There's not an empty lot over there anymore that we're going to get a trickle out of. The Newman Homes project area has got 3 years left according to the developer before that's all done. Jay Hendricks is done with his condos over on the east side. So there's really not a lot of new development potential outside of infill development acquisition, demolition, and redevelopment. So, yeah, resurfacing Main Street, some of what we've contemplated with staff levels. Do we pull out some of the additional utilities that we had installed or planned to install, i.e. 6-inch water and 6-inch sewer periodically behind the curb line, because it appears as if the decision of the finance committee is it's not ever going to redevelop into anything, so there's really no point in bearing the expense to put that stuff there.
If the village has a long-term plan of buying residences, they come up for sale.
That's kind of what we discussed at that meeting, and again, it kind of goes back to, it's nothing against the finance members, I mean, I am one.
That explains a lot.
Yeah, I know, blame it all on me. They're making decisions really that maybe is out of our realm of making decisions, right? I mean, if it came out of this committee or it came out of other, or staff or other people to, yes, this is the village's plan. We were gonna bury everything. We are gonna spend $7 million. And this is gonna be a corridor that's gonna get redeveloped over time, whether that's 20, 30, 40, 60 years. I understand $3 million is a ton of money today. If somebody down the road decides to bury them in 20 years, what's the cost gonna be? And then they're gonna rip up that road that is 20 years old and should still be in very, very good shape. For me, I get the money. It's extremely, extremely expensive. I drive in and out of that a lot. Zeke used the word blight, and that is the definition. I walked it back a little because those are people's homes. That's hard to hear. There are rundown properties there, but there's rundown properties all over. It's just not there. Obviously, infrastructure upgrades will make that area look phenomenally better. But that's the entrance to our community coming off of Highway 36.
Those homes.
That whole stretch is our entrance to our community for most people. And I have people who tell me that they drive to 2083 because after that got done, the road is nicer, it's more pleasing to the eye, and it's just a much better view. And that's kind of hard to hear. I mean, that's your main entrance.
But you can't force people to.
Correct.
That's the thing.
And you can't. And to Zeke's point, I was with the gentleman, Steve, who runs Newman Homes last night for 2.5 hours. He's in love with Waterford. He wants to be in Waterford for the next decade if we want him to be in Waterford building homes. And he told everybody else in Racine County he doesn't want to be with them, he wants to be in Waterford. I mean, a pretty bold statement to make in front of the county executive and everybody else. But we have nowhere to put him. And to Zeke's point, we've had very, very aggressive conversations for 3 months since I became president, trying to find space to have a plan to put them somewhere. There is none. And that could change tomorrow. We all are aware of that, but that's not the plan right now. Development down East Main is an option and it's been discussed. Obviously in the finance committee, there's not interest to invest to do that. There's interest to invest to upgrade the road and move on, leave utility lines up, minimal lights, and just move on. And that's their opinions. The difficult part of being in the finance is, they hold the money and they have to figure out how to deal with the money.
Right.
But it's a vision on, I guess, the direction the community wants to go. And I made it very well known to them. I'm open to whatever the majority wants to do. I'm not here to just spend money crazy no matter what people have said or think. That's not what I'm here for. But I'm also here to look at the future of the community, and I can't just look at it 1 year, 2 year, 5 year, 10 years. I gotta look at it when you brought up about kids and grandkids, I gotta look up what it'll be if my kids wanna stay here, my grandkids live here. Are they gonna be sitting in one of these committees in one of these seats saying, oh, are we gonna bury power lines for $12 million, or should we take it down another 30 years? I don't know. I don't know what the right or wrong answer is. It's difficult because this is finally the opportunity for this road to be touched. Rick corrected me since 1972. Correct?
Yeah.
I mean, my math quick is 53 years. So it's just, I don't know the direction for it. I've heard from different trustees. I know where everybody lies on it. It's kind of a mixed bag. People believe.
Yeah, the timing, not to interrupt, but the
Yeah, go ahead.
timing on this is horrible, right? We're looking right out here at Jefferson, which is just horrendous. And to do $3 million in an area that,
Yeah.
To pay $3 million to bury lines is just, in my place, it's just not feasible. And we've planted a lot of acorns, right? For our grandchildren in here, we've done a lot of TIDs and TIFs, and this is my point where I draw the line. It's like $3 million to bury lines, and then if we decide not to do it, we knock on doors of these people that live in these houses and say, hey, you're gonna access 30,000 or 50,000 or whatever. And it's just too bad that Jefferson is in such bad disrepair. How could we, that's my point, how could we take $3 million away from, where we're losing kids in these potholes and chipping teeth, right?
So
that's
one of the pieces to discuss on this is the funds are not fungible, right? So I've heard this discussed a number of times by different folks about, hey, we could take the money from here and put it over there, and that's not at all legally how that works. So Jefferson is not in a TID, nor is it within a half mile of a TID boundary. So Jefferson is 100% the responsibility of the taxpayers of the Village of Waterford, and via state aid, the taxpayers of the state of Wisconsin and federal United States of America, right, through the transfer funding that the state gets. East Main Street is a different animal completely, and the reason that you're looking at it within the TID budget is it's TID eligible. It was recently brought up to me by former President Houston on a phone call that, Zeke, I heard lots of things about Sister Bay and what happened or didn't happen, and some local residents kind of glammed onto a newspaper article that happened once upon a time. I got there and I think that TID was already 12 years old. So I did my best to manage it with what we had, but the leadership up there had purposefully decided we want what we want. And, think of the TID as almost like a lottery ticket, and that if inflation happens, the TID pays off. And that was how they banked on. Growth and development was kind of an afterthought. And we did do a lot of growth and development, but that TID probably will not close out positive, and everybody in the village of Sister Bay was really okay with that. It wasn't a challenge. It wasn't like it was some big political to-do. Your TID here, TID number 3, right now, has got 5 balloon payments of $1 million each. 20, 40, 39, 38, 37, and 36. So the position you're in is if there's no inflation and there's no more growth, there's no new anything built between now and when that TID closes out, your taxes will need to go up on your general taxpayers, let's call it 45%, 50%, something like that, in order to make those 5 balloon payments. Who are the beneficiaries of that? And the answer is, well, Matt Allen and Spanky's. That was an upside down deal. Matt got hundreds of thousands of dollars of tax credit, and that building was not built as originally planned and shown, and we got the deal that we got. Every other project that we've done over there has either been a break even or a positive, right? But that one was a pretty good sized negative. Other things that we didn't contemplate were COVID-19. That took everything down a different path from where we thought we would be. When we were having conversations about how that TID would develop, we were talking about Foxconn and industrial businesses and all kinds of stuff in that moment in history. Today we're talking about doing 4-plex multifamily and, more warehousing type development to make the TID pay off. So do I think the TID will be positive or close to positive by the time we're done with all of it? Yeah, I do. I think it'll probably pay off that $5 million of balloon payments in those last years, if for no other reason than if I will bet you every dollar that I have in my wallet that our good folks in Washington D.C. are going to print money to paper over problems rather than be spendthrift and actually live within their means. Anybody else want to take that bet? Because I think it's a losing bet if you take it. So I don't have much of a doubt that DC is going to run the print and press, which is going to lead to real estate inflation, just as it has for the last 60 years. And so the TID, I think, performs well, that combined with additional growth and development. So the question is, how negative do you want to run it? Previous leadership made a decision to run it without any hope of development, to put it in the position that it's in right now. Doesn't make it good, doesn't make it bad, it just is what it is. So we heard Pat said, hey, $3 million is a bit too far. I just want to make sure the point is out there that you can't take the $3 million that you would have spent on
Jefferson.
East Main Street to bury lines and spend it on Jefferson. You can't.
No, understood, but you're also burdening the TID with $3 million.
That's the
So if
point.
we're gonna be underwater in a TID, we don't want to add $3 million.
Right.
So we don't have money for it, basically, that's the bottom.
Sure. Okay, so other items within the budget, you've got capital. You all did not get, let me finish up here and then I'll go to that. You had them out, all right. So you've got a capital sheet that shows contemplated equipment. So for 2026, we're looking at a new chipper, a lawnmower, another skid steer so we can actually maximize use of the paving machine, and then the pavement management plan, which is, I expect to be engineering on Jefferson Street for $163,830. Within Whitford Park, you've got the pavilion being upgraded, parking facility improvements, Sidell building improvements. We've talked for years about putting in a bike path connector out at Cornerstone. So we'll continue to work on bike connectivity throughout the village to tie everything together. So there's land the village owns that could be tied together with bike path that presently is overgrown with buckthorn and other invasives. You're gonna hear us in many different ways talk about business activities. We have quite a bit of land and space that right now is in grass, and that was all the rage in 1987, a lot of grass. Turns out grass doesn't pay, and you have to pay to maintain it. So we would like to include a greenhouse and some nursery equipment so we can begin to raise our own plants from seed. That represents a long-term savings and potentially a revenue stream as we use that. And then we've also got a boardwalk connecting Wadewitz to DPW. You could argue, hey, neither of those are really essential, and we have to have them. They're quality of life things that help us sell those houses that Newman Homes is building or others would build. So what we're discussing is a boardwalk connector back here behind. The village owns all that, or half that land in that swamp back there, connecting over to Wadewitz. So right now, if you're in your neighborhood, Fred, you gotta get on W, either by car or walking it, and go down there. It'd be really great if you could get on bike path on the other side of the river, finish out the master plan, cross over a bridge, but it's $1 million to put that second bridge in from a PED standpoint, connecting your neighborhood to the other side. But this boardwalk is a much cheaper way for us to get one more piece of that puzzle done. Wadewitz is a gym.
There was a road back here, right?
Yeah, once upon a time.
Is that still an easement? The
No,
village?
nothing shows on that.
Okay.
Does the village own it?
Yeah. No, we don't own Wadewitz, but we own the swamp back here, a big chunk of it. Wadewitz is county park. So again, boardwalk connecting over. We'll build as much boardwalk as we can get for 60 grand. I expect it's gonna be chunked out over a couple of years. You've got the entry for Village Hall Park and Stage, and then there's a $25,000 entry for a pier out at Cornerstone Crossing. There's a couple of ponds that we maintained public access to when we sold the land out to Pro Health. You regularly see kids out fishing in those ponds. We'd like to put in an ADA accessible pier so that folks can drive a van or a car right up on that cul-de-sac and get out on the pathway that we've got and be able to fish there.
That'd be great. Then the DNR probably could put fish in there for youth.
Yeah,
It'd be super.
stock it.
It'd be
All those ponds are connected and they all tie back in.
They'll all be
Yeah,
gone, but
yep.
the DNR would come back and throw some fish in there to
Right.
catch them.
You would be surprised the fish that are in there.
Yeah.
What do you have in there?
There's
All
there's-
kinds, Pat.
Bass, definitely.
Nice bass.
Yeah,
Yeah.
back in the day, I was doing rounds on Sunday, and I went down to the lift station and took the readings down there. And there's a guy holding a fish up, and I'm looking, I'm like, that can't be a largemouth.
Oh, yeah.
And his buddy's taking his pictures, so I got in the truck and I drove back there, and they started panicking. They thought they were in trouble. I'm like, no, I just wanna see the fish.
Give me that fish.
It was like a
Dinner.
20-inch largemouth.
Wow,
Um,
not bad.
so again, anything we can do to facilitate waterway access, we're gonna continue to work
Can we
on
monetize that?
The pier, no, but hopefully increased home sales. So the conversation Mike and Rick will have always, or frequently, I guess I should say, is, what would 12-year-old Mike think about this, right? What would 12-year-old Rick think about this? And if it's like, that's a really cool thing to do, then it's probably something for us to look into, because if kids have a good time growing up here, we're gonna attract families. And if we attract families, we're gonna fill the schools, which takes pressure off of the schools financially to raise taxes. So it's nothing but a positive feedback loop. Last item is going along with the nursery equipment. We've got a tree spade for the front end loader so that we can move our own trees around. From time to time, we have trees that we could save if we could pick them up and move them, but it's either not worth the money or the hassle to go through bringing in a contractor for a one-off. If we have that, we can handle our own trees. So we are going to look at.
You got the trucks to go buy the tree wholesale and bring it.
Right.
You just don't really have a
the
way to
mechanism.
put it in.
Yeah, the last several we've gotten Willie Maney to bring his stuff in and move stuff around. Or you've got one other guy that you brought in. Either way, it's important for us to have a diverse ecosystem of native and fruit and nut bearing trees throughout our village. I think it just adds to quality of life all the way around. And when people think about investments, like the easy thing for Mike to do is put in something that's low maintenance that he doesn't have to care about. The hard thing for Mike to do is, number one, even think about planting a tree when, hey, grass is just easy to mow. But even more importantly, some of the trees that he's looking at planting, they're not going to bear a piece of fruit or a nut until after he's retired or maybe dead and gone. And that's one of the things I think we ought to be doing is planting things for the next generation. TID number 4 is included in here just for reference in case you had any questions about it. But there's on page 20 a $1.1 million borrow in the offsetting revenue for Fire Station 1. This really should sit in front of CDA or a Parks and Facilities Committee. I'm bringing it here to you guys because you're the closest thing that we have to it. The village as a whole needs to invest in properties that it can lease out. You do not have alternate revenue streams outside of a referendum, and we've learned through a number of surveys that people aren't going to go for a referendum no matter how bad you need it. They would rather you cut stuff out and be mad about it when you cut it than raise their taxes. It's always number one on the list. Don't raise my taxes whenever we do a survey. So, at finance, we discussed, what are the pros and cons of giving the building away for $1 versus fixing the building and leasing it out. So I would ask you guys to pull your calculators out. We're going to do some very simple math. You guys would humor me in this activity for a minute. So if you do the math on Plan A inside the TID district, on year number 1, you're going to get $1 for the sale. And then you're going to get 22 years at $16,000. So 16,000 times 22 is $352,000. And then every year after year number 22, your revenue stream is going to drop to $4,000. So $4,000 a year coming in from tax payments. Now let's do it a little bit creatively, which is we're going to fix the building and we're going to lease it. So your lease number is $84,000 a year. Plus $16,000 for a pilot payment. That's $100,000 times 22 years. Wait, that's 2.2 million. So you've got $2.2 million of income, and you have an asset that, when it's paid for, presumably is going to be worth at least the 1.1 that you have in it, right? If you put it on the market and just said, hey, we just don't want to own it anymore, we're going to sell it for 1.1 million. By the way, it's produced 2.2 million over the last 20 years. That sounds like a pretty decent deal. But moreover, because you hold it in public trust, you've now created a permanent TID district. And so instead of your revenue stream dropping to $4,000 in year number 23, your pilot payment remains $16,000 and your lease payment remains $84,000, or you can raise it. So $100K a year sounds a whole lot better than $4K a year.
What building?
The fire station.
Fire
Station number 1 on the river. It really is, Andy, you refers to it as sort of the crown jewel of the real estate portfolio in the village. Again, it was a different world prior to 2020. Coulda, shoulda, woulda. If I knew what I knew now, we would have parked Spankies over there and had them do the rehab, and we'd be taking the $4,000 in tax payments going forward, and would have gone into other things. But here we are, it's a different day, and
We tried.
we did.
We put in the noise abatement, we did.
Yeah, we did.
So what does the 1.1 do?
Builds that out inside and outside to get it up to building code and makes it, it's not FF&E, so it's not furniture, fixtures, and equipment. But this is a back of the napkin estimate that we get, not back of the napkin, this is a bid estimate we got from Henry when Henry was actually working on his plans over there. So, you know, we need rental income. As a matter of fact, you need like $300,000.
So this is gonna be our Veterans Terrace?
Yes. Village Hall is going to be your Veterans Terrace. This is going to be nothing that I can compare it to. This is a commercial property that you're going to lease out as a restaurant with a full alcohol license, and you're going to be the landlord for. You are going to watch more communities do this. I have a counterpart. His name is Paul Effort. He's the village administrator for Howard, Wisconsin. Paul and I gave the 2018 Small Town Economic Development presentation at the Wisconsin City County Managers Association conference, and what Paul had done was ahead of me in Sister Bay, and that Paul had built a 134 unit apartment complex wholly owned by the village of Howard and managed via a management company. You know, what in 2018 dollars, what can you do with a $23 million asset? Do you sell it and put all that money into street repair? Do you hold on to it and use it as a revenue stream to offset your tax rates? Sister Bay had a marina, and if you think about it, that's just a really complicated operation to lease out a number of slips rather than a whole building. We brought in $650,000 a year in revenue. We took 150 of that and bought down our tax rates with that 150K of income that we generated off of it. We need business type activities. You need to own assets, and if not, you're going to be having conversations about where you want to cut, and you know, where is that? Where do we want to cut? Is it less street repair? Is it less library services? Is it less fire and EMS? You don't have any spot that I can look at and go, hey, this is really bloated. You could maybe trim your police budget a little bit, but there'll be trade-offs there also. So recommendations, you move ahead with a $1.1 million capital outlay, borrowed on a short-term construction loan with Community State Bank, and then we'll do permanent financing after it's completed. What's the worst that happens? The worst that happens is there's no one that wants to invest in the village, in which case, no one would have invested anyway, right? So the building's still gonna sit there idle. That's kind of the alternate reality of it. And now you've got to find a new clearing price. So if your clearing price is not your debt service amount, with no profit involved, no income tax involved, no carry cost involved, then there's no way the private sector can do it. And so if you're having a conversation in your own mind about, no, the private sector can do this, please tell me how the private sector is going to do it more expensively and a greater burden than what we can do it, and somehow make all the money on it. Like, no, it makes 100% sense logically to go and do this. Hold the asset. So that's what I got.
Anybody have any questions? Sneers, jeers, comments? Okay. Mike, you good?
Good.
Carl?
So we're looking for a recommendation to approve the various portions of the village budget as amended and discussed in the meeting.
Melissa, did you get the amendments? So you have those documented? Can you get those to the committee as soon as possible? All right, we need a motion.
Well, let me just ask you, if I vote to pass this now with the amendments we just made, this is, we talked about no with the underground digging for the, burying the lines. I don't wanna approve it for.
Yeah, that's not in the
yes.
budget.
Okay,
That's
that,
not in the
okay,
budget.
that's what I was asking then.
That 3 million's not in there.
Okay, well then, I guess I'd make a motion to pass it as we've discussed today.
Okay.
I second it.
Okay. Discussion, any further discussion? If none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's passed.
Okay. You need one more motion.
Oh,
Adjourn.
yeah, I'll motion to adjourn.
I was like,